You gotta look at the screen and you gotta put daddy in the screen, okay? You gotta look here, don't touch any buttons. Just hold it and point it at daddy. Previously on the GTO build, we bought somebody else's project, took it home, reassembled the engine, dynoed the engine. We've done the initial blocking on the car, we straightened the edge. This car was supposed to go into the paint shop down the road. The guy that was gonna give me a hand is just super busy and it's just the way it goes. Prime it and paint it inside this shop and then we'll take it to the paint booth and spray the putty on the outside. Got it on nice and thick. This body stuff is frustrating and takes a long time, so it's nice to get a little bit done under the hood, so keeps you excited. For the trunk, we use this trunk spray. It's just splatter paint, and we use the black and gray. It only comes in a can, duplicate color. This is Canadian Tire. I just painted this. It's not too, it's dry, but it's not super dry. So you want to take the tape off as quick as possible. All right, it sucks looking through the little viewfinder on the camera. It never does it justice. Like, it looks way better. So make it a point to come out and see us at one of our shows so you can see the car in person. I'm super proud of how this is all turning out. As much work as it is, it's funny because when you build a barn, you go back at the end of the day and you look and you say, I hung all those trusses today, or I put all those walls up, or we clad the whole building in steel in one day, and sore as can be, but that's what I did. But then as soon as the building's over, it's kind of the end of it. You never really see it again, right? Whereas this is a pile of work that at the end of the day, you can't really see all that much that you've done. But most of that is done by now. So from here on, it'll be bigger improvements. We are gonna put the body back on the frame, put the fenders, put the hood, everything back on it again, and that will be the last time. The speckle turned out okay, but you can see I got like a line here, and there's a couple, the camera doesn't pick them up, but my eye does, so I'll probably put another layer on it. There's no prep in this stuff. It's very gritty, so it'll grab. So I'll grab a couple more cans and I'll finish that up. We got our exhaust kit from Lyle's all tacked together. As high up as possible. We've got these nicely centered. Now I'm gonna mark it and tell them where to put the trumpet. But even if we're back and forth, even up to an inch, we're fine. The X goes, the drive shaft goes nicely right through the X here. And then these kick up to hide the mufflers underneath. So underneath, you see a little bit of pipe. You see how the mufflers kind of disappear there. So that's fantastic. It has to be a bit lower there just because it has to clear the drive shaft. Then the hoops go really nicely in between. Both of them looking very even. And then the tailpipes coming out the back are about 4 inches away from the frame, nice and parallel. They look really good. And then from the back, that's where the pipes are gonna end up with GTO tips. So I tacked everything in place except for this one clamp at the back of the muffler, so these pipes can slide out and drop down, and then this whole section will be put up all at once, but they'll be dipping these into the tank, and then we'll be getting it back in a nice shiny little exhaust. So I can take them off now, I can put the body back on, and go from there after I sand that corner there. So here we go. Okay, so the body's back on the GTO frame for the last freaking time. And I realized that I needed 2-post hoist because screwing around with the forklift and the rotisserie and stuff just wasn't worth it. Next big investment is going to be a 2-post hoist. Any of you guys sell them, hit us up. We'll try to support you guys locally and talk about the hoist at the same time. Anyway, all the mounts get torqued to 35 foot-pounds. The exhaust there, you can see the exhaust laying there. That's getting ready to be dipped. That's all welded, tacked together now. That's basically how the kit's gonna go. You can mount those right up to the headers, and then those slip nicely over the axle. I gotta sand down the tank and paint that. We got a new Sending unit coming for that. Bumper was all nice and clean, but we got to clean that again. Might as well finish assembling the engine and everything to do on the firewall, because the fender kind of curls around here. So we kind of want to assemble that. And that's nice because we have the ductwork here. Now I'm not sure whether Hoogie did this or the previous owner did this, but they cleaned it all up, got rid of all the gunk here, bought us a nice new heater core, because that's what you do when you restore a car. You buy all the finishing stuff first and forget about the bodywork. not to put anybody down, but do your homework before you dive into a project like this, because you might want to peel some paint off and know what you're getting into before you pull out your checkbook and your credit card. This heater core comes with a nice new sticky. You can either stick it to the outside of the heating duct or stick it to the heater core, because it will come out with the heater core when it needs to be replaced, which is probably never going to happen. They do want to figure out, yeah, I was right. Of course I'm right, I'm always right. That fits in there nice and snug. I'll put a little bit of goop around the outside. If you got a seam sealer left, it'll work fine for that. Kids. You know, if you ever wondered how your heater core works, well, the air coming in through the ductwork here. So anyway, the air comes in through here somehow, and it takes the path of least resistance. So there's a little flap on this side. You can notice that this is open. There's a flap here. So if this is closed, the air has no choice but to go over the fins that has the hot coolant going through it. If it's open, the air goes, meh, I'll just go around because it's easier, and then you get cold air in the cabin. Science. I'm gonna install the brake pedal, but we're getting a new cable, I think, with the Summit brake kit. So here we go. It looks pretty anyway. Go gadget arm. Oh yeah, that's right. Made in Canada, not just the blower fan, but the entire car. You know how you can tell? Because it's got Robertson screws. Best screws ever made. And I know that that fan is new because it's fresh silicone and half the screws are loose. Oh yeah. We're gonna mount the radiator. Sad story about the radiator. Because we had an aluminum rad that came with the project, so we thought that, okay, we don't need a rad, that we didn't include that in the price. The core was shot on the original rad, so we didn't know anything about GTOs, but it's a pretty specific rad that has a nice big heater core with no sides actually. Online they're going for $1,200 US. We need to have it re-cored. I brought it to my core guy and he said, well, the sides are missing. So he put new sides on it, which is not a bad thing, except they're the wrong sides and they don't fit. So I have to cut the part of it off, which is a shame, repaint it, and then put it in place. And that record job cost us $850. That's $850 we were not planning to spend at all. If you want to do something, do it yourself. Okay, so the rad is in. I need to rub it for the top and on the bottom. The bottom rad hose sort of fits. It kind of kinks if I make that work in there, so I got to cut a bit off there. This rad hose isn't right at all. Of course it's not. I got the wrong bolts for the fan. I don't know where they are. So that's no good. That's all bolted up nice and tight. I gotta check this and make sure it works before I cover it up with the fender. The steering column is, I'm missing the half moon bracket that holds it up to the dash there, so I kind of need that. And then I think I can start laying my insulation. I'll lay my insulation on the floor, glue that down. I'll mount the shifter, so we got the Hurst shifter. This is the 242 high output car. And then I'll glue the insulation down. I don't think we'll be going to the booth tomorrow because that is time to call it quits. When you're missing those parts, when those are wrong, when that doesn't fit right. And then, yeah, just, that's it for a day. So anyway, it's like 10 o'clock, so that's a good enough excuse to go home, go in the house, have a shower. It's still pretty hot. It's pretty freaking hot still. Anyway, see you tomorrow. All right, coming back the next day, I just had the hose on backwards and routed the wrong way, 100%. So I was going by this, which is dumb because that's obviously aftermarket. So I need one that goes straight up and down, and then this is actually the proper rad hose. And good news, I got that parts 454 SS. I'm sure that will bolt right on because that one sticks straight up. See, sometimes you just need to walk away and then come back next morning, and it literally took me 2 seconds. So here we go. All right, so it's nice and late at night and I can't sleep. So might as well go back to work. Got these gaps, really nice. Happy with that. It's the last time that fender's coming off. This door is perfect, no hinge on it, or no pin on it. Really happy with that gap. So, we're on to the next thing, which is steering column. And I have the steering column, which is right here, but I've got nothing to hold it up. I thought I'm missing some parts, so I went to Hoogie's and checked the shelf. We're missing some parts. And then I realized, wait a minute, I still have couple of things hanging on the wall, and I had no idea what those things were for. Well, I knew that that was the battery tray, but that must be for a steering column. So let's see if we can put that on. I don't know if in any of the other videos you've seen that this driver's inner fender was never on, and that was because these cage nuts were missing. There was a package of 3 or 4 of them, and I put them on the other side. So that side's all done. But those cage nuts will be coming tomorrow. In the meantime, that lets me hook up my steering column and finish up going over the suspension stuff. And the rest of the shop is just kind of, I grabbed some of the wiring harness, tried to figure out where we went with it. And then I found this, which is a power antenna, which I looked at Hoogie and said, is that just a crappy, like, aftermarket gimmicky thing afterwards? It doesn't belong with their car? And he looked it up, and actually our car came factory with a power antenna. So that's got to go in. That stuff hanging on the wall was already sandblasted, painted. The things like the battery tray holder or the battery holder and stuff has all been painted already, and I kind of like that. I hate doing the little tiddly stuff. I kind of want to dive in. So now it's just a matter of taking those things and bolting them in. So we'll start with maybe the battery tray because it's easy, and then we'll do the steering column. So here we go. So for basically 4 years I've been looking at this thing going, I have no idea what this does. And just like that, it all makes sense. Look at that. Like it was meant to be there. It's probably the case. Now I got a mount for my brake pedal somewhere, I'm sure. Brake rod goes through there, I imagine. Bolt goes through there for the pedal. And then steering column. And then this thing must go here somewhere, maybe like this. And that will hold my steering column. Wow. So I got the steering column in, and I really want to be able to turn the steering wheel. But Hoogie's telling me that the GTO steering wheel is brand new and I'm not allowed to touch it. So luckily I have a 64 C10 outside, and that should be the same spline, looks like the same steering column. Right, so the steering wheel's off the C10 outside, and sorry the battery died, but I just took the nut off and then left it to the end. I left the nut right on the very end. Took my torch and just warmed this up just slightly, and then put my knees behind here and then tapped that with a hammer, and it popped right off. And now we've got some steering, a little bit of slop in there. We'll tighten that up a little bit, and I think that's this nut here. Crack this nut loose and then tighten that down. What that does is bring the one gear closer to the worm gear and then takes up some of this slop. See that? See where nothing's happening? There's a 1/4 inch to snug that up, and then look at that. Can you see that? Yeah. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it is, that tightened it right up. And even if it doesn't, these cars are fantastic because you're doing like 100, it feels like you're doing 180 because they're all over the road. Woo! I got that Mercedes, you're doing 130 and it feels like you're doing 80. That K car that we have, you're doing 80 and it feels like you're doing 120. So it's that really North American driving experience. You just feel like you're going super fast, but you're just all over the road. So we got our wiper motor. We're gonna put our wiper motor in. Now that our steering is, look at that. And those cage nuts should be here soon. We're gonna put this fender on, put the hood on, keep going with our lines, start blocking the front fenders. Exciting, I gotta throw it on the hoist. But I need a couple hands for that. I need a hand with the hood too. So whoever comes in the driveway next is going to be doing some physical labor. It's great. Come for a visit, bring a coffee, and I'll put you to work. Here we go. All right, so this is a wiper motor. I scratched the paint off the terminal, so they might actually work. There's some vacuum lines going here that I have no idea where they go or what they do, and missing the C-clip for this. This is awesome. But it's painted and it looks pretty. It doesn't matter. Do we really need a wiper motor? Because whoever drives this car in the rain is going to get a swift kick to the ass from me. It's not meant for rain. This is one of those things where you bolt together, put it in with like our normal nuts and bolts, and I'll put a C-clip in there for my kit. And then if I happen to come across it once I'm rooting for other stuff, then I'll swap it out then. You can always get at it until all the paint's on. So this is why we're doing this now. I don't know, I didn't take it apart. All right, it's Friday. I got quite a bit done. Still gotta mess around with this fender. It's not bolted at the bottom yet. Gotta line it up at the front, and then I gotta throw the hood on, obviously. But I thought I'd throw the ollie on it from the plow truck and the air cleaner, and just kind of start routing stuff the way that I think it's supposed to go. Another way to, this body stuff is frustrating and takes a long time, so it's nice to get a little bit done under the hood, so keeps you excited. I need a fan shroud for it. I need the bolts for the fan. As you can see, that pulley is nicely loose. I'm very happy with my gaps. They're turning out really nice there. On the bottom, along the side. Oh, very happy. Trunk fits good. This is actually the first time that the trunk's been on since, because I've always had those bars supporting it. So this is low here. I've never had the trunk on. I don't think I've ever had the trunk lid on. Anyway, the trunk lid is on. And oh man. We got steering wheel, we got pedals. We're waiting for some plugs in the floor. I'll start putting the insulation in it. It's starting to look like a freaking car. It's Friday night. I'm going on a date with my wife. So probably won't be back at it tonight, but we'll be back at it tomorrow. I don't know what we're all gonna do. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Anyway, very happy with how it turning out. Having some issues getting it to the body shop, so I just keep plugging away at it. We're gonna cover all this stuff up anyway when we paint. I'm gonna actually tape it to the floor and everything, so hopefully I don't end up priming it and putting it here, but that is a sexy car. And I can tell you right now that just walking around with it, looking at it, as I'm coming in the shop, the hours that we put into it is worth it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. Okay, so from here, I'm waiting for the disc brake conversion kit from Summit, and I need to weld the hangers on the exhaust. Take a look at this. It's just, oh, it's just right there. I found a bunch of pieces that I was missing. I don't know if anybody knows if this belongs to GTO. I think it does. I think this might be to hold the spare tire or the jack or something down. If anybody knows about that, let me know. This piece Might hold up some hoses or something, if somebody can let me know what that's about. And I think that's it. For the rest of it, I'm pretty straightforward. And this one, this long, I'm pretty sure this was GTO. Let me know where this goes. I think front to back of the car, I would think. Anyway, stick around. Lots more coming on the GTO. And it's gonna be good. Here we go. In there. I'm gonna pop that out. I gotta stop looking at it. But anyway.